Howdy, Desert Boy here. Hey, today I wanted to talk to you about a topic around revolvers. As you know, I've been carrying a Ruger LCRx with 9mm in it, which is really a semi-automatic round. So 9mm in my revolver, and talk a little bit about how that's done and some important issues around that. I also wanted to mention that what prompted me to think about this was watching videos, and I saw a video by somebody I've begun to watch lately named Dr. Tactical. It makes great videos, but does enjoy revolvers a lot like myself, as well as semi-automatics. And he had a video called "What is the best what is the best revolver caliber? What if the best revolver caliber is already in your Glock?" Basically, the 9mm revolver revolution. So it's a great video. If you are contemplating or you do carry a semi-automatic type ammunition in a revolver with moon clips, is how it's mostly done. There are some guns like Charter Arms that are specifically designed to be able to eject those rounds. And one of the significant differences too between, say, a 9mm round, right, is it operates at 35,000 psi according to SAMI for what the standard pressures would be, compared to, say, a 38 special, which is like 17,000. It's significantly lower. So it's a lot of additional pressure in there. So, and of course, out of it you get different performance for the 9mm round. So yeah, I would really, I found it very helpful watching that video. And out of that, got me thinking about it, because there was a couple things he does in there. There's a little test he does. It's very simple to check. And there's something that oftentimes is called bullet pull, crimp jump. I call it crimp creep, bullet migration. What happens is, because of the design of the weapons, your semi-automatic has a slide that helps absorb the recoil and chamber the next round. Plus the bullets are in a magazine, so they're in a different place, and with that recoil being absorbed to some degree, the design is different in how they're held in the magazine for that ammo. Where with a revolver, and we'll look at my Ruger LCRx here, which happens to be empty right now, but in a revolver, right, when the gun fires, right, and you got a hold of it, you're absorbing, when you fire it, you're absorbing that recoil. The bullet is also being affected by that recoil sitting in the revolver, the cylinder chamber. So what you use, what I was talking about with the moon clips, because they don't have rims, and if you look at this 45 Colt, it's got a rim. So that rim, if we look at my Ruger LCR here, when you press that extractor, it grabs the rim and pulls it out. However, 9mm bullets, for example, ACP ones, are non-rimmed. You can see where there's a cut down there, but that's not a rim. It's it's the same diameter as the other part, essentially. And so what you do in most cases, you use this, which is called the moon clip. It holds the rounds together, and when you insert them into the gun, right, works like a speed loader, but it stays in there. And then when you want to remove the rounds, you press the extractor and it pulls them all back. So that's how that works. And it's also, these moon clips are just thin pieces of metal. So you got to be real careful about taking good care of them, because they can get bent or warped. You don't want that, because that can affect, how well the cylinder rotates and things like that. So anyway, coming back to the topic about the 9mm, yes, it's great to have in a revolver. I mean, I shoot this very well. I could show you some examples of how I shoot. I might do that in another video, but the main thing is that, what can you do? Yes, it could be your primary, but it's nice, might be nice to have a revolver that uses the same ammunition as your semi-automatic if you use it as a backup, right? and your semi-automatic's your primary carry. So there's different ways that can, be a plus. So coming back to this whole thing about bullets, also one of the differences is if you look, this is kind of hard to see a little bit, but if you look at that revolver bullet, this is a 45 Colt Cowboy Action 200 grain bullet. See how it has those grooves in there? Well, when the casing is crimped, it goes into those grooves to help hold the bullet in place there. With generally with semi-automatic bullets, it has a taper crimp, and they do not generally have cannelures. Now, premium, what you want to do is make sure you're using premium ammo, as Dr. Tactical mentions too. There's a lot of good ones out there, that you can look at. I would encourage you to, if you want to carry that, you need to find the ammo that works best, not just for your gun, but you also shoot well, and it also has to work best for your gun, and also has to work best in this situation so you don't have this crimp creep issue, which we're going to talk about here in a second. So there is one manufacturer specifically that their information says they do have a type of cannelure on their self-defense ammunition, but I would leave that to you to do your own research, talk to your own experts and so forth. Remember, I'm a hobbyist enthusiast, and I'm just sharing with you my experience, what I do to check for things for myself. So what I did is I went out to the range and I had different ammunition. And so this one thing you can do is take, and what Dr. Tactical talks about too, is use a Sharpie a lot of times, a marker here, and you mark a bullet, right, that you're going to put in that, moon clip. And then when you load the gun, in this case it has 5 rounds. Generally you shoot 4 rounds, and then you eject the moon clip, and you check the bullet that's remaining to see if it has moved. Now, I'm going to show you an example here in just a second. I had a sip of water of what happened with me with just some range ammo. That's why your range ammo, that's why you want to have premium ammunition that the crimps are done well and the bullets are made well to be seated in there well. This is an example of ammunition. You see how much that bullet pulled out of there? And this was 124 grain, basically FMJ. So eventually, if that goes out far enough, it can be quite a hazard, but also it could get out far enough where it blocks the rotation of your cylinder and essentially makes your gun useless. So you want to make sure that you don't have any of that bullet separation, and then you have to make the decision yourself as to which ammo looks like it would be most effective for you to utilize. And that's what I did in my own research. So just some important topics there to talk about, this Sharpie test, and the way that revolvers, you have to absorb a lot of the recoil. The bullets are different, the cartridge casings are different, and the 9mm operates at 35,000 psi, where say a 38 special is like 17,000. So there's a lot more force going on inside of there when the whole process for firing and combustion takes place there in the round. So Bree Desert Boy, it always says, is just be safe out there, whatever you're doing. And I just wanted to have this discussion and encourage you, if you want to carry one of these, to think about researching it. I'm also going to check my governor, and with the 45 Colt versus 45 ACP. Now, there's not as much of a difference. ACP's 21,000 and Colt's 14,000, but I think it still might be worth checking it out, and that's what I'm going to do as well, because it also uses a type of moon clips for that. So you want to make sure it's got an extremely long cylinder, so it'd be kind of hard for that to happen, but still you don't want anything happening like the bullet coming out in there you know, while you're firing it. So, because it's got 6 rounds, not just 5. There's going to be one more time that you fire a round, you know, compared to the other one. So, once again, you know, if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And as I've said before, as we always says, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. Bye now.